Fantastic. Well, my name is Rick Taylor. Welcome, everyone. Is this the last session of the day? So you guys are anxious to get out of here. It's been a good day, though, yeah? I think it's fantastic. I am very honored to be here. I am extremely excited to learn from a lot of the sessions that I was not able to go to because they're recording those sessions, so I'm looking forward to watching those. So here, just a quick kind of a vote here. How many of you here are SharePoint admins? Okay, how many are SharePoint developers? One. Out. Okay. I have nothing against SharePoint developers. Actually, I have something against all developers, but that's okay. So the rest of you, you're here for the Reverse DSC. Yes. So Reverse DSC, as we'll talk about here soon, is not SharePoint specific. However, you're going to be a little bit disappointed because I am doing this from a SharePoint perspective. I am a SharePoint person. I've just elevated myself. We know everybody hates SharePoint. If you don't do SharePoint, you hate it. Those of us who do SharePoint, well, we hate it, but we don't hate it as much as you hate it. Well, sometimes we hate it more than you hate it, but we get it. It's a crazy product. It's an extreme crazy, but hey, when it makes $1 billion faster than any other product, Microsoft is going to put a lot of focus on it. So that's why I put the SharePoint in there. This is Reverse DSC for SharePoint. Yes. Will you be able to put some other application in there, such as Exchange or Windows Server or SQL? Yes. There are modules for those applications as well. But this is going to be, so I'm going to be talking about server farms, web applications, that sort of a thing. So for those of you who do not do SharePoint, you might want to cover up your ears or whatever it is that you have to do to get past that piece. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I've worked for Microsoft twice, actually. They call me a boomerang. I think everybody's a boomerang. If you went to work for Microsoft and you leave, you eventually come back. So I've done that. The very first time I worked for Microsoft on the BPOS. I was an engineer for the Business Productivity Online Services. That was the original O365. We had a whopping 3 customers: Coca-Cola, Energizer, and Nokia. Yes, Nokia was fun. They were very stubborn. They wanted SharePoint, but they didn't want SharePoint like everybody else wanted SharePoint. We want SharePoint, but we're not using Active Directory. Okay, well, that's not going to work. Yes, we want SharePoint, but we are not using Active Directory. Oh, okay. So we had to make it work. The second time I went to Microsoft, I worked for the Operations Consulting, which is the ITSM or the governance branch. So we had 5 branches. We worked in Windows Server. We worked pure ITSM or governance, SharePoint, SQL, and Exchange. So we went to our customers and we saw the pains that they were having, and we put our arms around them and said, yes, you screwed this up, but we can help you. And this is what's going wrong. You're going to need to fire all those people over there. Stuff that they didn't want to hear, but that's what they paid us for. And yes, co-author of some SharePoint Administrators Guides. I keep telling myself I'm never going to write another book, and then I don't know, insanity kicks in and I forget about the pain and I end up writing another one. Has anyone written a book? Don't do it. It's more pain than it's worth. All my contact info is there in the red. I work for a small company called Zach based out of Draper, Utah, and we do SharePoint consulting. Okay, so let's move. Before I begin, I must pay homage to this man here. He is a Microsoft PFE, Premier Field Engineer. So he works for Microsoft Premier like I did, except for in a different branch. This is the inventor of Reverse DSC. This man did all of the original modules. SharePoint sold, when DSC first came out for the application, SharePoint was the first one that came out of X. So all the other ones were all experimental, and they had the X before it. SharePoint was the first one to lose its X. That's due to this man right here. He's written a book on it, and I believe he's done some videos. If you go to Microsoft Virtual Academy, he does some videos there on DSC and Reverse DSC as well. A lot of this information he and I have worked on, and he's just an amazing person. He's out of Ottawa, Canada. So this is our agenda. Okay, it's going to be a brief, introduction to DSC. We've had lots of sessions this week over DSC, and all of that is the same. It's no different for SharePoint than it is for any of the other applications. Okay, DSC is the technology, and that's pretty soon. So we'll go a little bit over what DSC is supposed to do from a perspective of a SharePoint admin. Okay, then what is this thing called Reverse DSC, and how does it work? So we'll get down into that. Okay, again, I cannot stress this. Everything from my perspective, which is the SharePoint admin. Okay, so beginning, DSC. Okay, what is it? It is talking about two different states, right? It is talking about where you are right now and where you think you should be. Current state, desired state. It is kind of like when we would do something. Is it working as expected? And that's a tricky word. Working as expected may not necessarily mean it's working as desired. It crashes every 3 minutes. That's expected. It's not desired, but that's expected. Okay, what's its current state? It's crashing about 3 times a day. All right. DSC is like, you know what? Let's get to a desired state where it's not going to crash. Let's get to that point. And then once we get there, we want to make that the current state. Okay, so the ultimate goal is let's make current state the desired state. Prior to that, right, let's make the current state a stable state. Okay. Okay, so here's an example of if I were to run DSC against my machine, for example. This is a screenshot of my laptop right here. Okay, so the core component, right, is this process, WMIPR VSE. And when I run that, get my current state, this is what I get. So in my particular case, I have 2. I get this process, and I have 2 of them running. I would highly recommend, I'm a big thing on documentation, which is the reason why I really enjoyed Reverse DSC. Listen to the very next statement, put it somewhere in the back of your head. I'm going to ask you a question first. How many of you have documented your network and your applications? Okay, for those of you who have not, how many times have you wondered why you don't have it? Okay, this is where Reverse DSC comes in. This is going to give you that documentation. You want to know what that machine is, who owns that machine, what is this machine running, what should it be running? This is the current state, or hopefully the desired state. So here's the thing that you want to put in the back of your head. This is going to help you document what you have. And you're not screaming right now? You are not. How many of you have looked? When was the last time you looked at your network documentation? Has it been a week? A month? It's automatic. Look at you. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why would you do a reverse DSC if you're already doing DSC on the machine? Because your configuration is your documentation.
Yes. So now, good question, right? Why would I do this if I'm already in my desired state? Do you think it's always going to stay that way?
Well, my pull server will make it stay that way. The client on the pull server will say, where's my state, and it doesn't change.
It doesn't change. Would it ever change?
If somebody done something or something happened, yeah, but then the client would bring it back.
Now, sometimes you want to make a change, and we're going to talk about that, right? There are some times when everything is always the same and it doesn't change, that's very nice and it's stable. But there are some times where you need to make a change. Something else happened. Something came out, a service pack, a cumulative update. You need to update your servers. That's not its current state, but it is its desired state. I want to document where I am right now because we always know when we make updates, they work perfectly well, right? And then something happened, it's like, oh shit, where was I before? No, we had that. No, that wasn't the setting. This thing changed the setting. Are you sure? Now what do you got to go against? Take your current state. Reverse DSC. You suck it out. Now I've got it. And put it on paper. File it. Do what you need to do. When it's all good to go, keep it till the next time you run the DSC. This should be a part of your governance process. Governance should say, where I am right now, I should be able to do this offline. Because if the internet gets cut, your computers are no good anyway. And if you have to rebuild them, you're going to have to read them from paper anyway. Get something that is written down. File it. Save it till the next time. Once you get the new one, throw that one away. Okay, that should be part of your governance. And if you want to store it electronically, that's good. That should be part of your process as well. How many of you have your governance already documented? Ooh. How many of you have governance boards? What's a governance board? Okay, this is a discussion you need to have with your colleagues and your employers. Governance is an incredible thing. It gives you a lot of power, it gives you a lot of safety. It's kind of like having the sex talk with your kids. If you wait too long, you're going to have problems later. So have that discussion early to prevent problems in the future. Okay? Okay, so DSC, responsible for making sure that I am in my desired state and I stay there. Okay, checks the machine. Are you okay? Yep. Have you had any changes? Nope. Kind of like talking to a teenager. Everything okay? Yep. How was school? Good. No problems? Nope. Okay. By default, if a configuration drift is detected, bells, sirens, whistles go off. Stop, stop. Now, there are some settings, and we'll talk about those settings, that will say, you know what? Something happened. I need to get back to where it's safe. And it will log this event. Okay, so these are the three settings, right, for DSC. Apply only, apply and monitor, and apply and autocorrect. Now, from a SharePoint perspective, that last one is a pain in the ass. You probably don't ever want to use that last one. Now, I understand in some other circumstances and other applications, that's the one you want to do by default. I don't want anybody changing anything, and if it does, I want it to go back to where it needs to be. SharePoint doesn't quite work that way. Let me explain. When I install SharePoint 2016, see, and this is another weird thing. How many of you have more than 3 versions of your operating system in production? Oh, wow, you all are crazy. Really? How many of you have Server 2016? Okay. And there's more than 2 versions past or prior to that? Like 2003. Okay, so 2008, that's not so bad. 2008 is not so bad. How many of you have prior to 2008? I know. Is it against the law to do that? I don't know. In the U.S., and I'm going to tell you right now, I had a client not even 2 weeks ago sent me an email, said, thank goodness we finally got off our last NT4 domain controller. Kid you not. NT4. Because there was an application that was running on it for whatever reason, and they had to keep it. Okay, so then what came after that? Windows 2000. Anybody have Server 2000? Windows 2000? Okay. 2003? Maybe? Okay. Not with SharePoint, you don't, right? Okay. Yeah, so this, in the case of SharePoint, if you're running Server 2016 and you have SharePoint 2016, in SharePoint 2016, there is a configuration called min-roll. The reason why min-roll came out was because SharePoint admins screwed up SharePoint so much. I mean, those of us that were consultants, we made a ton of money because people didn't know what the heck they were doing. Even the ones that knew what they were doing would screw it up. And what min-roll does is it says, I am going to install exactly the minimal amount of services on this server node in order to do my job. SharePoint is a 3-tiered application. So I've got web, I've got application, and I've got a database. Not cluster aware. So if one goes down, it doesn't know. Right? So I've got multiple web servers who don't know about anything else except for them. And I want certain services running there. And I've got application servers, and I want certain applications running on them that are not running there, or vice versa. In some cases, I may say, you know what? Performance is really bad. I'm going to convert that server to this type of a server. And you can do that very easily with PowerShell or in the GUI, either way. But guess what? If I do this, what happens? It goes right back. And you're like, yeah, performance still sucks. What's going on here? What, that server went back again? Change. Okay, we're good. 15 minutes later, what the f? That's why you don't ever use that, because sometimes in SharePoint, you change those things. Now, my recommendation is you do the apply and monitor for SharePoint. Because when you do make that sort of a change, okay, you look at the log. So yes, it's going to require you to do a little bit more work here, but that's okay because you can automate that process. You automate the process that says, hey, boom, we had a change. Okay, change to a configuration in min-roll. Ooh, which server changed? That server. The person who made that change was this person. Email, what happened? Because our performance sucked. Good. Now guess what? We make that the desired state. Yes?
I had this case, and I just changed my configuration and reapplied it. I mean, I needed to change the configuration and change it and reapply it, and I was done. I mean, my configuration was being...
And nothing happened.
No.
You changed the configuration and it stayed that way.
No, I needed to change my farm.
Right.
I changed, the farm was deployed with DSC completely, like no user interaction whatsoever. And then I needed to make a change in my farm. I just changed the configuration, applied it again. The resources which were fine were fine. The one which I changed was changed. So.
And no one screamed about it. No one's...
It was like we have a change process in our company. It was like I told when it will be done. It was done on Saturday.
Okay.
Everything was fine.
So everything was fine. Because you have a change control process. How many of you have a change control process? How many of you follow it? I should have saw about almost every hand go down. Because how many of you try to go around that process? Why? Because it's got to happen right now. Oh, that's okay. That's just a small change. Oh, no one's going to know. Shh, if you make that change, don't tell anybody. Okay. You know you do that. That's why you're laughing. Because I've been there. So yes. So yes. So, and then apply only, right? Don't monitor it. Just do it, right? I know what I'm doing. That's a bad one. Well, at least in SharePoint, it's a bad one, right? I just assume that make that change, make it so. Who am I? Like some Jean-Luc Picard, right? Just do it. I always want to know. That middle one will save your behind. Okay? Okay, change mode frequency. Okay, there's a self kind of checking, right? It does it every 15 minutes. Okay, so am I still in my desired state? Yep, cool. 15 minutes later, am I still in my desired state? Yep, okay, cool. 15 minutes later, it does it again. Okay, maximum is 30 days. Check myself every 30 days. Okay, so that's all still the same. So I think you've heard this probably before. It's all about get, set, and test in DSC. Okay, get my target resource. It gives me what my current state is. And reverse DSC is kind of like, I need that. Get my target resource, because that is what it's about. I want to suck out what your current configuration is, and that's a get. Right? Tell me what it is. It is only as good as that get target resource. Okay? If it doesn't work, then we've got issues. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so the get target resource, okay, only returns the current state for that one instance of a resource. Okay, requires you to pass in a primary key. For SharePoint, right, those primary keys are like get SP web application. Okay, and I should mention that this is really only applicable to on-prem, because you don't have web applications in O365. Okay, that's something that they took, something I'm like, yay, I don't have to worry about web applications, I don't have to worry about search, I don't have to worry about user profiles, I don't have to worry about any of that crap anymore. Like, yeah, I know, and that made him giggle. Yeah, isn't that awesome? It's awesome. Except for it's a pain in the behind, because like, if I delete somebody user or a user leaves or whatever, I got to do it twice. I have to remove them from Azure, and then I got to remove them from SharePoint. Dumb. I create a user. It's like, oh, what website? What are you talking about? Just create the user. Then I can't use. It's dumb. Dumb. So I've got a script actually that I'm going to put up in the resources that will kind of help you through that. So you only have to do it once. Yes. Yes, in SharePoint Online, you have to do it twice. There was a weird thing in SharePoint on-prem where if I was a member of a SharePoint group and I deleted the user in Active Directory, the SID showed up still in SharePoint. The user would still be there because it's referencing a GUID, not the actual, because SharePoint doesn't do any authentication, it only does authorization. So it doesn't know. It just, the user's still here. You click on the user and it doesn't have any information about them. That's kind of weird, but that's the way SharePoint is.
Just for backwards compatibility, when this user creates, for example, files, there should be an info who created this file. And that's why the information...
That's why there's something there.
User will be forever in user information list.
I mean, I'm not really SharePoint.
That's okay.
But it's interesting because TFS is in a similar position, but it does, and it's syncing up the identity, but it doesn't know that the user is no longer in the organization, and even though it's got those GUIDs and it's got that referential integrity there.
Yes, so a lot of SharePoint admins are like, who is this user? I don't know who that is. They click on the user and what happens?
It depends on how user profile service is configured.
That is true. So let's just say that the user was deleted, right? They were, or disabled. They were deleted or disabled, and they click on that user, profile not found. Who is this user? They can't do a search on them because they're gone. Well, then and if they were the owners on all of that data, okay, now as the farm admin, now I have to take control of it. It's a mess. That's why nobody wants to play with SharePoint anymore. Okay, so this is a kind of an example here where I've got my targeted resource, and then within my JSON, I've got the key, right, the URL of the web. It should exist. This is the description. This is the name of the web. So this is the information that you would get when you would run a get target resource in SharePoint. All right, now what are we here for? Reverse DSC. First, what is it? Why we should use it? And how does it work? Okay, the reason why, or have DSC is using SharePoint DSC is really the only way that you should be deploying SharePoint. Okay? How many of you remember deploying Windows for work groups? Or Windows 95? Right? 30 some odd floppies, and you sat there. Please put in floppy 27, 28, 29. Okay, go to print. You need floppy 38. Oh, gotta go and find floppy 38. Load it up in there. Okay, this is why sysadmins are the way we are, and why we sit there and watch a progress bar. Hey, dude, what are you? Shh, I'm busy. Okay, in deploying SharePoint, oh my goodness, we used to put the CD over there, make a shard, and then hey, connect to the share and do it. Okay, and then it got a little bit more complicated. So now they came up with these, what they call auto SP install scripts, right? Yeah, those are great. If you ever use those, you're going to screw it up. I guarantee you. Why? Because they're generic. They're not made for you. They're made for everybody. And everybody's SharePoint is the same, right? Okay. Oh, well, you just have to go in and make a little changes. No, there's a lot of things in there that you should not be running. For example, when it says disable loopback check, how many of you use that? Oh, I thought I'd catch at least a couple, right? You only want to use disable loopback check in your dev environments.
But you can change it in a config for auto-SP.
You should change it in there. That is correct. But then what happens when you keep going back in and making these changes? We never make mistakes when we make those changes to those files, do we? I'm always right. I never make a typo in those things.
It's the same probability of the typo when you write your own scripts. I deployed SharePoint both ways.
You use the auto SP install. Yep.
Because I had a client who didn't allow to use any third-party script. I needed to write myself. And it works both ways. When you know what you do, you will do it.
Okay, so then if I've got more than one environment,
Yeah, you have, I mean, for my own scripts, I still need to have some configuration file.
and how many times do you have to change it? For every environment, but in reverse DSC, I don't.
You still need some configuration for reverse DSC.
But I only have to touch it once.
I mean, I deployed the last SharePoint with DSC, and I still have I don't know, 5, 10 environments.
Yeah.
And I have a basic script, which is written once, I don't touch it, but I still need a separate file, which I invented by myself. It's still a configuration. I mean, and I feed this PSD file yet to my.
And how many environments do you run? The production, you have a test, and you have a dev?
Yeah, I have several different devs and different configurations.
And no changes ever happen.
They do. I mean, and I change configuration and I go.
And now, when you make that one configuration, right, how many times do you have to touch it?
I touch only this configuration file.
You touch how did you get the configuration file to begin with?
I wrote it by myself.
So you already have it.
Yeah.
So you were the reverse DSC.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's what I used to work this already. And the best way to use it and the best use case for it, if you start a new job or you are given some environment which you've never seen, and there is of course no documentation, there is no chance to have documentation, and then you apply your reverse DSC and you are golden.
Exactly. Right? I'm on a plane. Someone says, come out and fix my SharePoint. You've never seen.
Exactly.
right? I don't know what you've got. You tell me that you've got this, but do I believe you? How many web front ends do you have? That right there tells me that they're wrong. If you can't tell me immediately, you probably don't know. Okay, I've got 2, I've got 3, I got this, and I've got this. Okay, what's your problem? We're not quite sure. This isn't working. Okay, when do you need me out there? Today. I can't get there today. I can get there tomorrow. I can get on a plane tonight, and I'll be there tomorrow. Okay, now, I need you to do this in your environment. I need to get some information. Get me the logs. Okay, I want you to run Fiddler. Nope, that's forbidden. You can't run Fiddler in your, nope. Okay, can you run this other script? Nope, we can't run anything. You can't touch anything. Okay. In that particular case, that's just one, but in that particular case, this is where it saves your bacon. Why? Because now I'm going to do reverse DSC. What does that do? Sucks out their configuration, gives it to me, and I can run all of those tools on that farm that looks just like theirs.
But are you allowed to run the script to suck it in?
Yeah, so the script does not take out any data.
Yeah, but you do need to convince them that it
Well,
doesn't.
true. If you're going to, if all you're going to do is let me sit there and watch you click, okay, we're never going to get anything done. Okay, here is a PowerShell script that is going to tell me what is going on in your environment. When you run this script, it's going to give you a file. Give me that file. Send it to me. I will look at it on my way over to you. What do I do with that file? I then run DSC. And now I've got your environment here. And I can see it. Okay, I can troubleshoot it without touching you. And I can use my tools, and I can say, hey, you know what? This is what's going on here. You need to make this change. Matter of fact, I just did this for, it wasn't CT dot, it was day before yesterday. Some genetics company, can't remember what their name was. But they had 2 or 3 issues, and I said, they've already got it installed, and I said, send me your MOF. Because you know they touched it. Okay? Send me them off. I'm going to get them off. I run it over here. Now I've got what you've got. Oh, okay. There's nothing wrong here, actually. What's wrong with this one? Oh, you know what? Your SMTP server. Somebody took out the SMTP server address. That's why your alerts aren't working. Cool. Just like that. Okay, also, okay, how many times have you heard, now I've got, in one environment, 32 development machines, okay, they're all singular, 32 developers, and they're writing code, and they're testing it. Cool. Do we got it right? Yep, it's working. Cool, let's deploy it. All right, it doesn't work. Well, it worked on my machine. I hate that. It works on my machine. Well, your machine's retarded. Whatever. Something's wrong. Okay? With reverse DSC, I can run that script against those 2 environments, right? I'm going to suck out their configuration, and I'm going to find out, well, it runs over here, but it doesn't run over here. Why? Because there's something different. And now I can see what that difference is. Now that I can see what the difference is, now I make the decision. Do I change it? Or do I tell this person, you know what? It's not good enough. You're going to have to refactor your code because this is the configuration that is our desired state. Okay, so it's good for that. This is exactly why if someone is doing onboarding, okay, this is another reason why I would do it. This is probably one of the key applications, okay? I can automate the configuration of the environment, and I don't have to worry about drift. Okay, so here's my production environment, right? I got oh, let's just say I got 3 web front ends and I got 2 application servers, and I want to create a dev environment or a test environment. Okay, cool. So I'm going to suck out, right, the configuration from a couple. If I've got a web farm, I'm going to suck out a couple configurations from my web machines because they're probably not the same. Because in MinRoll, at least in SharePoint 2016, some of those may be caching servers and some of them may not be. So I want to make sure that I get them both. And I want to make sure that if one of these is an index server and one is a crawl server, I want to make sure that I get those because those are different configurations. So I suck those out and I can then use DSC to make my new test environment. Now, what does that give me? That gives me an environment that is exactly the same as my production environment, just on a smaller scale.
How do you decide? So you're completely green at a new company. How do you decide what to pull out? Oh, yeah. At first, how do you decide what to pull out, and then how do you do that? How do you do the selection?
Excellent. So how do I know which ones to get? So the very first thing is I'm going to say, all right, I've done some type of needs analysis, and I know how big my farm has to be. I need X number of web front ends, X number of application servers, X number of SQL servers. Okay, each one is configured. I'm going to speak from the 2016 perspective. I've done MinRoll, which means that certain of these servers are running X services, some of the other servers are running these other services. That is just the way, SharePoint does that automatically. I don't make that choice. Okay, when I choose my search topology, right, which one, I make the decision on which ones are going to be the crawl servers, which one are going to be the index servers, which one are going to be the query processing servers, which ones are going to be the query servers. I make that determination. I have documented that. I install those machines and I put those services on there. Okay, now that it's fully done and fully baked and it's running, we have determined that this is our desired state. Now that I have my desired state, I then use reverse DSC and I pull out the configuration for my whole farm. And I do a compare, I do a validation. How are these servers different? This one is the same as this one. This one is the same as this one. This one is different. I need that one. This one is also different than the other two. I need that one. This one is the same as this one. Okay, all of the different MOF files that I have are the ones that I need.
So you end up with, for instance, you start with web 1 until web 7, and you end up in web 1 because all the others are the same.
Correct.
The production systems, do they have to be configured by DSC in the first place? Or
No.
Right, it doesn't matter. So you can grab whatever you want and go down.
I could have gone to each one and put the CD in and installed it if I wanted to. The key is, am I in my desired state right now? If I am in my desired state, then that's when I use reverse DSC to suck it all out. Now I already know where I am, and this is where I want to be, and I want to make sure that all of my configurations are the same. So now I use reverse DSC, and I get those files. I get my scripts so that it will allow. Now, the cool thing about using reverse DSC is, let's say that I've only got one, and I'll show you that here. Let's say that for dev, right, I've only got 2 machines. Okay. I can use a switch in my reverse DSC that says, you know what, make it all on one. Take all of the different configurations, merge them, and throw it on one. Now, what that does is it says, you know what, at least now when my devs run code against it, I know that I need these configurations. And then once we know that it's going to work, or we hope that it's going to work, when we take it out to the next one, we'll be okay. Because the next thing that happens is I've made the change, and I've gone through my change control process. I've deployed the changes, however you deploy your changes. The problem is this. This is what happens. Some dev makes a change. Okay, does it work? Yep, cool. Let's throw it on his machine. Does it work? Yep. Oh, guess what? It doesn't work over here, though. So now, because these are all individual, right? I've just got some guy or girl coding, and they make something work, and somebody over there is doing something completely different. And this person is doing something completely different. And it works over here. Okay, we want to make this happen in test. But what they did not do was, whatever that dev was working on has not been tested with this person. So when I go and I make that change in test, it's not the same. And I get what is called a snowflake. You know, all the snowflakes are individual. And I get a snowflaking problem. This is where you get that, well, it works on my machine. Okay? Snowflaking is a bad thing. Okay? We don't want it. Yes?
Does it take into account the Windows patches or...
Yes. Yes.
So it takes all information.
Yes. If that patch does not exist over here, it is not the same. Make it so. Now, there have also been cases where that patch is what screws this up. Okay? In that event, now you make the determination of what is your desired state. This was the current state, but is that your desired state? Well, I need to get this code in here, and it doesn't work with that patch. So that is not desired. It may be current, but it's not desired. Let me get to a desired state where that works. Now that becomes my current state. I use reverse DSC here, and I apply it to the other ones. Does that make sense? I'm sorry? Okay. Okay. Oh my goodness. How am I going to be able to do my demo? Okay, so the reverse DSC, please contribute. The modules are available in the PowerShell gallery, GitHub, aka.ms, reverse DSC. Okay, this is a quick little process here. Oh, I hate this. I'm sorry? Oh, sure. Let me go back. aka.ms/reverse DSC. Okay, so the process. There is an orchestrator script that is a part of this reverse DSC. Okay, so you've heard orchestrator script is actually not the name of it, but it was kind of invented by Nick, but that's okay. So basically what happens is this orchestrator script has all of the information on there, and it goes out and it reaches to the SharePoint farm. Like it says, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to run the get SP web application, and I'm going to grab all of that information. Okay, so he says, if I do this, then I'm going to log that, right? And I'm going to put that in the, in my configuration SP web application. I'm going to get those key indicators because SP farm is a key indicator. Okay, and I'm going to put that in my keys. Okay, and then I'm going to get the information about what my current configuration is. Okay, now that I've grabbed it, is that where I am? Yes. So I'm going to extract that information, and I'm going to pull that back as well. I'm going to take that information, right, translate the hash table. I'm going to put those in DSC blocks, and I send the block back to the orchestrator script. It takes all of those blocks, and I just keep on repeating it over and over and over for each key indicator. And I've got this huge orchestrator script. I run that orchestrator script when I want to run DSC against my resources. That's basically what it looks like. Matter of fact, I think I've got, I might have, I thought I had but there's going to be a GitHub repository for all of the sessions here. So in my particular repository for this session. Not only will you see the scripts, you'll get the documentation that's built into that script, plus video. So you'll actually be able to see what happens when you click on that script, what's going to happen in each one. So you'll actually be able to see that as well. All right. I only got a few more. All right, so SharePoint DSC, you download it from the gallery, you install it, and you run it from every one of the machines. Okay. Yes, you must be connected to the internet. I have tried to do this from a machine that is not connected to the internet. You're going to have to jump through some hoops. If you're interested in that, just ping me. I worked with Nick on this to get a machine that is not connected. How many of you have SharePoint that is not connected to the internet? Yeah.
But I copied what you sent it to work.
Yeah, so what you have to do is you have to go and you grab those modules, you have to put it on something that's network, and then you have to run. Yeah, that's a pain in the behind, because there are some things that it goes out and reaches to get those updates, and you don't know that. That's the pain.
But actually, I don't want also this update, because, for example, there was this SharePoint DSC 1.9, and then...
Yeah. Yeah, you want the 2.0, yeah.
It broke 3 or 4. And this was the moment when I had to rewrite.
That happened to me. Yeah. So if you're in an offline, so there's a couple ways that you could do that. You could do a WSUS, and you can configure WSUS to actually just go to that gallery, grab what you need, and then store it so that you can do that, so that doesn't happen. So I get that. Okay, executing the PS1, just make sure you've got the correct strips. I'm running through this thing because I've run out of time. Configuration data.psd1, it contains all of the parameters, the passphrase, the product key, all of the running services, all of that information. This is an example of the parameters that are in there and the examples that would go in those parameters. So I'm going to have 15 minutes. Okay. This is non-node data. Okay, so like passphrase and that sort of thing. Now these modes, when you are sucking out the information, there are 3 different types. There's light, default, and full. So the default grabs everything except for like your features, your health analyzer rules. Other than that, the full does everything. If you're doing light, I haven't quite, the only time that I would think that I would probably do an extraction mode that was light is if I have a singular dev. That's when I would use that. That's the only reason why I would think I would use that. Some of the other ones, skip sites and webs, which does not scan site collections and webs, which is like what I used if I'm talking to a client and I'm trying to troubleshoot. I don't need to see any of that, right? Just run, it's your configuration that's causing this problem, so that's what I want to see. So I can skip sites and webs, unless they're having an issue with sites and webs, and then that would be different. And then the output file will include a PS1, and then you actually tell it where to put it, and it generates that automatically. Okay, it contains a single configuration, and it's called SharePoint Farm. It's named -SharePoint Farm, and then the output file is a MOF file. All right, and this is where I get to do my demo, but I've run out of time. But okay, so I want to go to the gotchas. The demo that I have, is there anybody? We're the last session, aren't we?
Yeah. Are we going to be kicked out of this section?
I don't think so.
Nobody's going to kick us out. Okay, so what I'll do is this. We'll finish the death by PowerPoint, okay? And then we'll say, okay, session's over, yay! And then I'll run through the demo. Is that cool? All right. That way she doesn't get in trouble. We're okay.
I will ask.
Or we can have questions, and I'll just, no one's going to kick me out, right? I could just stay here, and I can just run it, and...
As long as she can leave, right?
Say it again? Let's speak. Oh, shit. Okay, let's go through this really quick. Okay. Some of the gotchas, right? If you're installing SP binaries from a shared drive, you have to disable UAC. That will stop everything if you don't, right? Give everybody godlike mode. Okay? The file share has to be in your local intranet or it won't render. Language packs, all of those have to be extracted. It won't work if you have the big, huge file. It have to be extracted. Okay, multiple patches. It will have to reboot after the installation of each product update. So when I run like CUs, right, I don't reboot until after I've run psconfig. Okay, so I run through each server, everyone does it, I stop the services, run it, start the services, install the CU and whatever, and then it says, would you like to reboot? Say no. Run psconfig on the central admin, then run it on each other server after that. Then reboot everyone. In this particular case, what you want to do is you're going to have to reboot, but do it after psconfig. Trust me. They're still working on the reason why you want to do that. Okay, don't have multiple SP configuration blocks. It's like I want to put in the language pack for French and then German, and I have to reboot after every one if I use DSC. Do not use it for content, right? This is not your OneDrive. Oh, I deleted it. Oh, let me use DSC because I used it. No, 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 no. It's configuration settings only. Content, right, is person, right? That's what the recycle bin is for. Okay, let's go back. This link here gets updated quite frequently. Some of the things that we've had issues with over the process of doing DSC. All right, so we're the last one, so we're not going to have a 15-minute break, but what I am going to do, any questions before I actually show you the video on the demo? Yes?
You earlier said that you had to install the Use DSC on one of the SharePoint members of SharePoint.
All of them.
Oh, okay. So you're going to show
All of them.
all of them.
Because the configurations may be different, and you want to be able to compare them.
Oh, okay.
Yes?
How are you going to deal with the dependencies such as AD, authentication,
All of that is part of the MOF file, so it depends on, and it makes sure that AD is there, it's a member server, all of that information is in the file.
once you have it on your there, how are you going to log into it?
It prompts you. So when I suck out the information, it says, okay, who are you? And I have to log in and I have to have the permissions. Then it gives me all the information. If I'm going to then use DSC, it knows that it's got the passphrase in there. It knows that it prompts me for my password, and then I can go and do it.
Will the reverse DSC work the same way for reversing other?
Yes. Reverse DSC is not SharePoint specific. Okay, reverse DSC.
What module for SharePoint?
Yes, there's a module for, like there's a SharePoint DSC, there's an Exchange, there's and so forth. And reverse works the same way. It was just someone had a great idea to reverse the DSC. It's great. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, because I know they're recording it, we don't want to get her in trouble, so this is what I'll do. I have a loud voice. Okay. All right. So we'll keep on going here. Okay. So the. Oh.
No, I will stop the recording at 6:25.
6:25. And, okay. Okay, so when they've done that, they've exported those target resources. If you look over on the left-hand side, you can see all of the information that was run against that server has now been kicked out. So the employee number, profile path, all of that information. Okay, so that's the export. Now the import is I am going to reverse this information. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so I am going to go to that particular module. Okay, and I go here under Windows Modules, I go to the DSC resources, I go to AD user, there's my AD user because that was the file that was created in the export. There's all the information that I had extracted. Okay, this information here, this is where the function, the get target resource is. And then you'll notice that, can I blow this up? I can't, man, I'm trying to make this bigger. I can't make this bigger.
The problem is you're using Windows Media Player?
Oh, okay. But this video here is also going to be included in the slide and all that, so you'll actually be able to see this. And there's a transcript that comes with it, so you'll be able to see that. Okay. All right. So then you install the module, and actually he comments that out, and then we import that information. Importing that information then allows me to take that machine and say, hey, I want you to configure yourself according to that MOF file that we've got, and all of that information that you saw in the text file will then be installed on that machine. Okay. Then SharePoint DSC reverse. So now I'm going to, it created a SharePoint DSC reverse.ps1 file that you download from the gallery, and it runs and it says, okay, what is, and this, oh, you notice that it used light, right? So, wow, that's weird. Okay, there's the module, open up the module, there's the DSC reverse. It's going to create two PS1 files. One's going to be called SharePoint util.ps1, and the other one's going to be called configuration. And it runs through all of this. It prompts you, you type in your username, and it kicks out all of the information. So it's sucking out all of the information from against that SharePoint server, and it's getting all that information. So if you look at this, okay, get all these server instances. You can't really see it, it's kind of obscured and everything, but everything about that machine is being sucked out. And then it says, okay, where do you want me to put this PS1 file? And there it is. I want you to put it here, and then it goes through, and you can look at it, and you can see all the information that's about this. So if you look here, right, the service packs, remember how we were talking about how do you know about the updates? You can see here he's running that operating system, right, server 2016 data center. He's got SQL Server 2016, and he's got these language packs. This is the information that he subtracted from all that. Now, if I were just going to do this manually, right, do you really believe someone's not going to miss something? Oh, I forgot the language pack for American English. I put the UK English in there. Okay, this stops that. That's the whole point of this. Okay, you will make sure that they are all the same. Okay, and then it will also go through all the different product versions, and then it still has a dependency on CRED SSP, but that's okay. They're fixing that. And then this is the app server, and then you'll also see the web server information, all the accounts, all of the web server. For example, it is best practice to get rid of the default website in IIS. That removes it. So if the default website is installed somewhere, it will remove it. And then whatever the URLs are. Okay, so it goes through all that. It says, where would you like me to save it? You tell it where you want to save it, what name you want to use, and voila. He calls it sp-farm.dsc, types his password in, and there you go. It's a beautiful thing. So, next steps for you. Go to the PowerShell gallery, go ahead and get the SharePoint DSC module. Go and get the SharePoint Reverse DSC modules. There is, and I'm going to include this in the, I don't know what they call it, in the GitHub repository. I will have step-by-step instructions on how you can do this in Azure. So you just connect to your Azure box, and then you just run through these steps, and it will allow you to practice this. You'll be able to do a DSC. You'll install SharePoint DSC in your Azure, and then you'll be able to run Reverse DSC and grab a MOF file, and you can spin up another VM and then use that DSC, and you'll see that it's the same. How does that sound? Okay, so you will get 3 videos, the slide deck, you'll get the instructions on how to run DSC and Reverse DSC, and links to where you download the modules. And I'm not quite sure when that's going to happen, but I want to give it to the conference organizer by the end of today. He's coming here to kick me out. Oh my goodness. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. They called the big guy. All right. Well, thank you very much.